Hi, everybody. So there were some technical difficulties with the report card webinar this morning, which apparently extended to being able to record it. So here's a brief run through of what we talked about. The webinar only took about 15 minutes rather than the hour we had scheduled, so don't worry, you're not getting shortchanged here. But I did want to make sure that everyone who didn't get a chance to listen had this record of what we talked about, and anyone who wanted to refer back to what we did talk about had the opportunity to do so. So in this webinar, I'm just going to briefly talk about the data collection and submission process for the 2017 Teacher Preparation Report Card, starting with the 2017 Data Dictionary and the template that you'll use to provide the information about your completers. I'll talk about the changes that we made, as well as a couple additions that we made this year. Then we'll also talk about a couple of tangentially related areas of emphasis that pertain to the data dictionary and the template. And then finally, I'll give a brief walkthrough of setting up an OwnCloud account and the process of submitting your file through OwnCloud. And off the bat, I want to start off by saying that we have been having some issues with your accounts for the OwnCloud application. I've been working with the IT department to try to get some sort of restriction lifted off of your accounts. Apparently it's because you all are remote users and not connected to the state wireless network, which is how you're supposed to initially log into your account and set up a password and everything. But I'll be sending out an email to everyone as soon as that's taken care of. And again, I apologize to everyone who's already tried to access their OwnCloud account and hasn't been able to do so, but hopefully we'll be able to get that taken care of in the next couple days, and I will let you know as soon as you can get into your account there. So just a basic walkthrough of the data collection process. You'll start off by completing the data template that I sent out to everyone last week. You'll be able to do so using the definitions and the instructions that we provided in the guide and data dictionary. If anything in there isn't clear, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to walk through anything that might be a little confusing or clear up anything that you don't think makes sense that we have in the data dictionary that we sent out. But it's basically the same as what we used last year, so I think it'll be a fairly straightforward process. Once you've completed your data template, you'll be able to submit that using OwnCloud. So first you'll have to set up your OwnCloud account. Again, you won't be able to do that until we get the restrictions lifted on your accounts, but I'll send out an email shortly letting you know when you'll be able to do that. But after that's been taken care of, it should be very straightforward to log on and set up your account. And then through that account, you'll be able to submit your file. Instead of using the SFTP site that we used last year, you'll be able to submit to your institution file on OwnCloud instead. And then once you've submitted your completed template there, I'll be able to begin the data review process, and I'll work with whoever at your institution submitted the data so that we can make sure that everything is 100% correct and accurate there. And we also might potentially have a few more steps of data collection later in the process, depending on some additional feedback that we hear and changes that we decide to make. But anything that you'll need to submit after that, you'll also be able to do through OwnCloud. So starting off, I want to talk about a couple of things that we added this year that weren't present on last year's versions of the data dictionary and the template. So the first major thing is a signature verification item, which we added just because we wanted to make sure that your dean or director or whoever of your program had a chance to look at the data, since the data that you submit on your template will be used on the annual reports put out by the Department of Education as well. We just wanted to make sure that everything is 100% accurate there, since those are going to be used for program approval and stuff like that, in addition to just the public-facing report card. And then another thing that we added to the institution tab of the template this year was a question about out-of-state and private school placement. Basically, we just wanted to collect some preliminary information on whether that's something that your institution tracks, whether you would be able to track that information, what methods you are using or would use to do so, as well as whether you think that that's something that's outside of the capacity of your institution. We've had some focus groups and sent out a survey to try to collect some feedback on the report card based off of what we did for the 2016 version. And the placement metric is definitely one of the ones that we have heard some concerns about. So we just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to most accurately capture each EPP's ability to train teachers who are employable and who are being placed in classrooms. So we want to make sure that if this is something that people are able to do, that's something that we add in, but we also don't want to make things worse for everyone. So we want to make sure that this is something that everyone would be able to do. I also want to talk about a couple of things that we eliminated from the data dictionary and template this year as an opportunity to streamline things a little bit, make it all a little bit more efficient for you. So one category of items that we deleted was something we had added last year, which asked whether any of your post-baccalaureate completers had received a previous post-baccalaureate degree. And this was something that we thought might be interesting to look at, but didn't end up using for anything concrete. So we know that this was potentially a confusing item and wanted to make sure that we didn't have anything extraneous in there that we didn't end up using. So we were able to delete that. And then the other major thing that we were able to get rid of this year were the sub-scores for the standardized tests. So like SAT, math and reading, or ACT, writing, science, reading, math, that sort of thing. Again, this was something that we didn't really use for anything last year, and so we wanted to make sure that that potentially confusing item wasn't in there since it wasn't something that we were using anyway. And then I mentioned that there were a couple of other areas of emphasis that I wanted to talk about, and these are all things related to what's in the data dictionary and template. So the first major thing is we really wanted to clarify the importance of the state of residency item on the template this year. As I mentioned before, placement is something that we're actively working on solutions for, trying to find a way to more accurately reflect every EPP's ability to train employable and placeable teachers. So if we aren't able to have everyone track their private school and out-of-school or out-of-state completers, another thing that we have potentially looked into is looking at where completers are from and focusing on placement for Tennessee teachers. So we just wanted to make sure that this is capturing teachers who are either undergraduates who are from Tennessee or postgraduate or alternative program completers who moved to Tennessee with the intention of staying in the state. So we really don't want this to be something that penalizes anyone. We just want it to accurately reflect who is a Tennessee resident and whether or not our EPPs are training people who want to be in the state in a way that allows them to get jobs in this state. Another area that I wanted to highlight was the clinical practice item. We added a couple of definitions that we had developed for the technical report last year, but we included them in the data dictionary this year. That's just because we really want to make sure that everyone is reporting, say, job embedded completers and internship completers in accurate ways. And this is particularly important because we do have a couple of calculations that differ for, in particular, job embedded completers, as we want to capture them as soon as they're teachers of record. So we just wanted to make sure that that's as clear as possible. And again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me and I'll do my best to work through them with you. That kind of ties into our instructional leader item. Our instructional leaders actually won't have a clinical practice, but we do want to make sure that you're reporting any completers who we're training to become instructional leaders. We're exploring our options for how we can add this to the report card, either as part of the report card or as a separate document. So we just want to make sure that everybody is reporting these completers as well. And then finally, the last area of emphasis that I wanted to mention is EdTPA. I'm planning on doing some research on EdTPA at the, I guess it's 8 institutions that have already implemented EdTPA. I'm hoping to reach out to you individually to discuss some of the institution level research that I've done, but I'm also hoping that once we get this year's data, we'll have 3 years of data for the whole state. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to use that to look at some demographic information, run some regression analyses and stuff like that. And so this was also something that came up as an area of interest during the focus groups, and it's something that we might potentially explore, including in future versions of the report card once EdTPA is fully implemented across the state. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone is fully completing that portion of the report card as well. So now I just wanted to briefly talk about what you'll do with OwnCloud. As I mentioned before, I'll email you once we get this restriction taken care of, but once that's lifted. It should be a fairly straightforward process. You'll just go to the link that you see on the screen here. You'll enter your CA number, which I sent out to you as your username, and the temporary password that was included there as your password. Once you get into your OwnCloud account, you should be able to change the password to something that you choose. But the only important thing to remember there is that when you're initially setting up your OwnCloud account, you'll use the first password that you have to encrypt the information there. And you'll need to make sure on your OwnCloud account, this will be something that shows up, so it's not a difficult process. But when you update your password, you need to update your encryption password as well, just to make sure that everything is fully secure there. So we make sure that the confidential information that you're submitting with your EPP templates is fully protected there. So as I mentioned, you can change the password after you initially log in. And then another option that you have is downloading a desktop version of OwnCloud if you prefer to use that instead of the website. I've used both, and I think both are fairly manageable and easy to use, but whatever you prefer, you have that option. So then when it comes time to actually submit a file using OwnCloud, I'm going to be sharing access to institution folders for every EPP. Last year, we just kind of had one folder that everybody submitted to, but this year you'll have your own. Even still, we wanted to give you the option to password protect your spreadsheet. So if you do choose to do that, all you'll need to do is send me the password that you used there in a separate email, which will allow me to access it without there being any way for it to be traced. But we just want to make sure, again, that everything that's confidential in the template is fully protected. And so then once you've completed your template, you've created your account, and you're actually ready to upload your spreadsheet, all you'll need to do is go to that institution folder that I'll send you, select the upload option, and add your completed template there. And then, excuse me, last year, many of you emailed me when you submitted your data, but OwnCloud actually will alert me once any of the folders that I have access to is altered. So as soon as you submit your information, I'll be able to see it, and then we'll be able to begin the data review process. Happy to answer any questions that you have throughout that process, and I'm happy to work with all of you, but I think it should be fairly straightforward. So we've got the contact information here. My email, spencer.gwozdik@tn.gov. We also are hoping to bring someone on in Laura's position as the Director of Policy and Research soon. So if you want to send a more general question or something that I might not have the answer for, the teacherprep.reportcard@tn.gov email address is also a good option. But I'm happy to answer any question you have to the best of my ability. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I hope this process goes as smoothly as possible this year. Thank you.